When I was growing up, I didn't fully understand what my father was giving me. He wasn't giving me money. He wasn't giving me possessions. He was giving me something infinitely more valuable. He was giving me himself, his example, his integrity, his work ethic, his character. Only after the passing of years did I come to realize that the greatest inheritance a father leaves his children is not found in a bank account. It's found in the life he quietly lives before their eyes. Coming to you from the MAB Podcast Network, this is On The Brink with Michael Allen Brown. Hello, my friends, and welcome once again to On The Brink. Today I'd like to set aside the headlines, the controversies, and the politics, and all the noise that so often competes for our attention, to simply honor fathers. The famous father, the forgotten father, the wealthy father, the working father, the grandfather now helping to raise another generation, and especially my own dad. As I've grown older, I've come to understand that the values guiding my life didn't simply appear one day. Someone planted them. Someone watered them. Someone demonstrated them for me. And that someone in my life was my father. He taught me honesty before I understood the word, responsibility before I appreciated its value, that a man's word should mean something, that work is honorable, that kindness is strength, that humility is not weakness, and that character is something no one can ever take away from you. We live in a society that often celebrates celebrity over character, popularity over principle, success over sacrifice. Yet civilization itself has always rested upon ordinary fathers quietly doing the extraordinary things, rising before dawn, working long hours, providing for their families, protecting those entrusted to them, encouraging with patience, correcting with love, carrying burdens their children never even knew existed. As Christians, we cannot speak of fatherhood without remembering that one of the most beautiful ways God reveals himself is as our Heavenly Father. Now, earthly fathers are imperfect. Every one of us is. But a loving Father gives us a glimpse of steadfast love, faithfulness, provision, gentle correction, and quiet strength. It is a sacred calling. There is a photograph that has become especially precious to me. It's not a photograph of a king, nor of a president, nor of a famous celebrity. It is simply my dad, standing at his craft, covered in sawdust. Someone else might simply see a man working in a wood shop. I see something entirely different. I see countless early mornings, responsibilities quietly accepted, bills paid without complaint, promises faithfully kept, integrity that never sought applause, a man who believed that providing for his family wasn't merely his obligation, it was his privilege. And then one day, a thought quietly came over me. The sawdust wasn't only covering his clothes, it was covering my life. Because everything I became was touched by the hands that wore it. Permit me to share with you just two memories because they explain what I'm trying to say. I was about 7 years old, and there was a little grocery store right beside where we lived. The owner was a very kind man by the name of Mr. Bobbitt. He trusted me, and I betrayed that trust. I shoplifted several packages of latex balloons and hid them where I thought no one would ever find them, in my underwear drawer. Unfortunately for my brilliant criminal mind, that's exactly where my mother found them on laundry day. When she told my dad, he didn't create a public spectacle. He simply took me by the hand, marched me across to Mr. Bobbitt's store, placed those balloons back into my hands, and required me to look that good man in the eye. I confessed, returned what I had stolen, and apologized. There were tears. There was embarrassment. But there was also something else. A father who loved me too much to let me become a thief. I've never stolen another thing in my life. Not because I feared punishment, but because my father taught me that character matters. He wasn't merely correcting a little boy. He was shaping the man I would one day become. Years later, after I had become an adult and was serving my first church as a pastor, another memory revealed the very same father's heart. Dad and I both loved going to auctions. And during a preview of one of these auctions one afternoon, I spotted a book that immediately captured my attention. It was the autobiography of one of my favorite British preachers, Charles Haddon Spurgeon. I admired it. But then I went on my way. I wasn't even able to attend the auction itself the next evening. But my dad could. Unknown to me, he returned with one purpose, one mission: to bring home that book. As the bidding began, he discovered another minister wanted it just as badly. The book happened to be part of an entire stack of theological volumes. The bidding climbed and climbed, but my dad stayed until he finally won the bidding. He paid for the entire stack, removed the one precious Spurgeon volume, and then gave the remaining books to the other preacher. Christmas morning arrived. There was excitement in the room over one particular package, one that everyone seemed to know about except me. It was presented to me from Mr. and Mrs. Claus. When I opened it, I couldn't speak. There it was, the Spurgeon autobiography, the very one. To this day, my dad never told me what he paid for that book, so its value has never been measured. In my heart, it remains priceless. As I look back now, I realize that my father gave me two unforgettable gifts. The first was accountability. The second was generosity. One taught me who I should never become. The other inspired me toward who I hoped I might become. The same hand that marched a frightened 7-year-old boy across the street to confess his wrongdoing was the same hand that quietly placed a priceless treasure into that boy's hands years later. One hand corrected, one hand gave. Both hands loved. The older I become, the more convinced I am that fathers don't simply shape wood. They shape souls. They don't merely build houses, they build homes. They don't merely leave possessions, they leave principles. And perhaps the greatest monuments ever erected are not carved from marble or granite, but are quietly built into the hearts of sons and daughters who simply watched their fathers live. My dad never sought recognition. In fact, he would probably be embarrassed by this very episode. He would smile, brush the sawdust off of his sleeves, and quietly go back to work. That's the kind of man he was. And perhaps that's the very definition of greatness. As I look around our nation today, I find myself believing with all my heart that our greatest hope will never ultimately be found in Washington or Hollywood or boardrooms. It will be found in fathers, men who keep their word, men who love their wives, men who pray with their children, men who teach honesty by living honestly, men who show kindness because it is right, men who believe character matters even when no one else is watching. Civilizations are not ultimately built by governments. They are built around dinner tables, in workshops, on front porches, in church pews, and in the quiet moments when a father chooses to live a life worthy of imitation. Dad, if somehow these words could find their way to you, thank you. Thank you for every sacrifice I never noticed, every burden you carried without telling me, every lesson you patiently repeated. Every example you quietly lived out. I still have the Spurgeon book, but far more importantly, I have the man who gave it to me written across my heart. If there's any honesty in me, if there is any sense of responsibility, if there's any faithfulness, if there is any kindness, then somewhere beneath it all, I still find traces of sawdust. And to fathers everywhere, please never underestimate your calling. You may think no one notices, but little eyes are watching. Little hearts are learning. Little lives are being shaped. One day, they will realize that the sawdust covering your sleeves became part of the very foundation upon which they built their own lives. Because the world saw the sawdust on your clothes, but your family saw the love in your labor. On this Father's Day, may God richly bless every father. Comfort those who missed theirs. Strengthen those still raising children. And remind us all that the quiet influence of a good man can change generations. And to my own father, this episode is dedicated with love to you and to the countless fathers who built our lives, one quiet day at a time. Until next time, this is Michael Allen Brown, reminding you that even when our world seems to stand on the brink, faith, character, family, and the enduring example of a loving father remain among God's greatest gifts. God bless you, and happy Father's Day.